Paul, pleased to meet you.
And you? How
I,
you doing?
and where are you based?
We're based down in Plymouth,
How
in the
long have you been there?
southwest. Me personally, I've lived in Plymouth for about 20 years,
Ah,
and the Shark Trust have been around 25 years.
ah, goodness. The- you're CEO of the Shark Trust.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit about the trust?
Yeah. So as I say, Shark Trust been around for 25 years. We are based in the UK, but we work globally, definitely around the Atlantic area, and we are dedicated to trying to create positive change for sharks and rays. So that is everything from the policy work that we do, advocacy, working with the fishing industry, working with boat owners, working with ecotourism, aquariums. So wherever really sharks and humans connect, we try to make better outcomes for sharks and rays.
We just recently posted on Scubaverse the big shark pledge from you. Can
Yep.
you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so the Big Shark Pledge is our new campaign, which we're focusing on oceanic sharks. So there is a there's obviously concern right across the board of sharks. There's 1,200 species. About a third of those species are considered threatened. But oceanic sharks, there was a report out a couple of years ago that this group in particular are particularly vulnerable to high seas fisheries. There's been a 71% decline in their populations in my lifetime, in 50 years. And about three quarters of those oceanic shark species are considered to be threatened with extinction. So there's a real kind of particular need for that group. So what we wanted to do is use the work we've done in the past. We've had some great success with Mako and Blue Sharks, working with our partners in the Shark League to push for fisheries management, sustainable approach to fisheries management, and for catch limits. And we want to kind of build on that and go further and faster, and really to kind of engage public support in that process. Now it's because it can be quite a kind of in and out difficult process with kind of fisheries management work. What we wanted to do is like a kind of petition plus. So the Big Shark Pledge, sorry, is a petition. So we're asking people to sign up, but it's also a way that we can keep in touch with people and we can activate their voices when we need them. So there might be a particular instance where we want to put pressure on a particular country or on a particular process, and we can use our connection through the Big Shark Pledge to our support base to activate support and try and give those policy decisions a push over the line.
Okay. Um, I was just watching your promo video for
Yeah,
for the pledge. Have you had what kind of feedback have you had from that so far?
very little because it's only been out a few days.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah,
So
so
hopefully we
we're
can get
waiting.
more for you.
Yeah. We kind of approached this in a very different for the Shark Trust. We approached the video in a very different way. We wanted to kind of try and pull the heartstrings a little bit and make a very clear case for this group of animals, but at the same time as making a clear case of the threats that they face, be very clear that we can all have a key role in change, and change is possible, and change is already happening. There's been a lot of progress in the last few years in shark conservation, and the more we can kind of unify, come together, and kind of really focus our efforts, then the more we can kind of push the kind of future status of sharks and rays in the right direction. So the video is a kind of unapologetically trying to kind of use emotional cues to stimulate people to join our pledge and help us to move things in the right direction.
Sure. I mean, anything you can do at all to move the project forward is a good thing. It also interests me what kind of people actually support the work that you're doing and other shark conservation groups and things. Because I mean, Scubaverse is mainly centered on diving of one sort
Yeah.
or another. And it's us divers that spend huge amounts of money, time and effort getting to places around the world to see and be with sharks.
Yeah.
And yet, as far as I can see personally, those very same divers actually do very little to save or help protect sharks, and often say, "Oh, there aren't as many sharks here as there was last year," or et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Does that frustrate you at all? I mean, how do you deal with
Well,
things like that?
you have to kind of throw that back at yourself. You can't if I think divers are a pretty engaged group, and I think we've had really good kind of relationships and feedbacks with divers. We go to dive shows, we get a lot of response from that. But if any group or the public more broadly isn't engaging in our work, then we need to come up with new ways to try and give people something to do. It's one of those. I've just been having a conversation actually with a partner that we work with about those kind of calls to actions, things that we can give people to do to actually help and support the cause. And I think we just need to keep trying new ways and different ways to offer people ways of helping. There's not something that most people can do when they're walking down a high street or when they're going about their day-to-day lives. There aren't that many things that kind of instantly spring to mind that you can do that will help shark conservation. But we kind of think of it as, one of our key calls to action is to learn and share about sharks. Now, divers do that sort of naturally. They're probably one of the best informed groups of people on the planet in terms of knowledge of and understanding of sharks. The second thing we talk about is being a kind of informed and conscious consumer. So if there are products that might include sharks or sea, marine life more generally, we need to learn more about it and understand where things come from and understand the kind of provenance of things and make consumption decisions based on that. And then the third thing I think is using your voice in a way that's actually helping to move shark conservation forward. And that's what the Big Shark Pledge is all about. It's about trying to give people something that they don't have to work too hard to help us, but that then they can, through the Big Shark Pledge, people can be involved in that process and can choose a level of involvement as we kind of throw things out at them. So my short answer to your question is, if we want divers to be more engaged, we need to do better at giving divers things that they can do that are tangible.
Right. Yes, indeed, indeed. You touched upon consumerism, which is a thing I feel strongly about. Uh, I mean, for me, consumers basically rule the commercial world. I mean, if we don't buy it, it doesn't get either produced or killed or whatever. And I mean, not so much in this country here in the UK. Although, actually, having said that, I believe we do export shark products. It was just some information I got from a film I watched recently, Sharks in Deep Water. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that or not. Um, as I say, not so much in this country, but the rest of the world, where consumerism does take up all those shark products. Is that a hard one to influence?
Um, it's part of the. I mean, I think there's kind of two ends to the problem. One is the pull from consumers, and one is the push from the fishing industry, and you've got to kind of work on those both at the same time, and appreciate that there is almost always going to be a demand for products, and so when there is a demand for products, you need to do whatever you can to um, to regulate that demand and to regulate the fisheries so that at the very least fisheries are being operated in a way that's well managed and has a sustainable approach. So at the very least we look for fisheries that are sustainable so that shark populations aren't, or any populations of any fish species are not being depressed and pushed, further and further towards being inviable. So it's kind of a mixture of approaches. There are some really good examples of where consumer targeted campaigns have had an impact, but there are also really good examples of where fisheries management can have an impact, and I think it's a balance of those two that will ultimately get us to where we need to be, which is protecting the populations and ensuring populations are held stable and where necessarily allowed to rebuild.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, regarding the shark pledge, again, so if people want to not only support it, perhaps become more involved in it, what's the best way for them to do that?
By the website. So www.bigsharkpledge.org, or obviously if you go to sharktrust.org, that'll take you there. Or if you go to our Facebook post, or if you walk past our office, or wherever, we will make sure that it's out there in the world. But yeah, the website, the bigsharkpledge.org website, is a great start point. The video's there, bit of information about the campaign, and then the click to sign the pledge. So that's the kind of best way to start the process, and then we will then communicate with people and kind of build that engagement as we go on.
Yeah, can you just remind me once again? So people click on, they sign the pledge. Where do those pledges end up? Where do they go?
So we can use those pledges in a variety of ways. So we could, in certain circumstances, we might be able to, we can use them as a good old petition style. We've got 100,000, 200,000, whatever the number of people that have signed this pledge, which supports sustainable management of these fish populations, or science-based management. So there's the kind of petition element to it, but also because it's a pledge and it involves essentially putting people on a mailing list, it means that we can, when key points come up, we might have different asks, like doing a click to tweet, so that we can direct tweets towards, in the past, for example, we've been able to ask people directly to tweet European members of the European Parliament, or UK ministers or whatever. So we will provide those tools to allow people to do that. Or it may be we're asking people to write to their MPs, or whichever country they're in, write to their elected representatives to make it kind of a bigger push. So it's a kind of a multi-layer, but by signing the pledge, at the very least, we've got those numbers, and then we've got that contact to try and encourage people to take that step further and do a little more.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to tell us all about this. I wish you, with all of your work and the Shark Pledge, great success. I mean, it's important that you succeed. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers now.